If you're looking to smile, look no further than my next guest. I'm so happy to have New York Times bestselling author Annie F. Downs. How are you, Annie?
Hi, Sammy. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm really glad to have you. I mean, there's so many things that I want to talk to you about
Okay.
personally. You just finished a month-long sabbatical, or a Sabbath, I guess is probably a better way to put it. Before we kind of get into some of the new things you have on tap, can you just tell us like how that was and what led you
Yeah.
to doing that?
In January, we decided as a company that we all were going to take a break together in the summer. It is normal for people to take weeks off and time off in the
Right.
summer. But what happens when two people are gone and three people are there is everybody builds lists for everyone else.
Mm.
And I just was not interested in us building lists for each other. And so we said from the beginning of the year, hey, we're all going to take these days together so that we are all resting, so that all of our brains are kind of off. And I was gone a little bit longer than everybody else. So everybody else came back last week. I came back this week. It was great. My prayer going into it, my hope going into it was I didn't need big revelations from God. I didn't need these big experiences. I needed sleep and slow days. And so even as I was coming out of my days off, I was reflecting and going, hey, God, I don't know if I have these big revelations. And then I went, this is why I journal. I went back and looked at what I actually had written down for what I hoped for. And I was like, oh, well, we did that. We did that. Okay. So I got to do some really fun things, got to see some family. I mean, just like with everything, Sammy, there were some beautiful, restful days, and there were some really sad and hard days. Our family's going through some things.
Yeah.
And the beauty of having days off of work is I get to go be with my family and help us process some things. And so it was everything. It was one of those, and I got COVID. And so you also get sick for a couple of days. And, it was just everything. It was everything.
For
It was a cornucopia.
that's when you raise your hands up, right? Like, whatever,
Like,
Lord.
all right, God, fine. I see you.
Okay. So I have to ask, if I was to do that, I feel like it would take me at least a week to train myself not to check email,
Yes.
not to pull out the calendar. How long did it take you to not do the things you were trying not to do? Does that make sense?
Yes. I allowed myself to keep Instagram on my phone for about 5 days after my last work day. So
Okay.
I finished up the work week, and then I still had Instagram on my phone for about 5 days. And then I took it off and have yet to really jump back in. The interesting thing, when you leave a thing that you probably have too much relationship with, when you leave a thing that probably isn't the healthiest relationship,
Mm-hmm.
you aren't in a hurry to get back to it. And so I've
I
been
feel like
away
you're
for a
talking
month.
about more than social media just
Yeah,
there too. Just
maybe.
putting it out there.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm probably the same about Oreos, but I do realize that, I mean, I think a good revelation for me was that I don't miss social media as much as I thought I would. I missed some of the relationships, but also my life got very close and quiet and private. And I could reach everyone that I could reach with my phone numbers.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
there was something about it, Sammy, that I'm trying to figure out, like, how do we live in both worlds? I don't know.
That was my next Well, that was my next question. I don't expect you to have a good answer, but raising teenagers, especially, and as someone like you and I, that this is part of our work, you can't
Right.
completely. So
Can't.
where is that? Where is that balance? Are you finding yourself do a weekly check, a day, an hourly
Yeah.
check?
So
Where's that? Because you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as
right.
they say, but it does become all consuming. And sometimes you don't realize that until, I take my teen's phone away for the day, or until we do a self-imposed Sabbath.
That's right. So for part of, I'm figuring it out. And I think that's one of the things. I mean, I talk about this in Chase the Fun, and in That Sounds Fun, of like the joys of being an amateur. And part of that is allowing yourself to learn and adjust and change. So I'm not making myself start this fall with, I've got all my rules in place of how I'm going to do this. I'm going, okay, I'm noticing how peaceful I feel. And I'm noticing how connected to my community I feel. How do I bring back a part of my job that I do really love? I mean, I love the connection of social media. Some of my dearest friends live around the world, and I see their lives on Instagram. And so I think, And I'll tell you the other thing, Sami, that I'm really processing. I'd be interested in your thoughts too. When it comes to our own lives or our teenagers' lives, is I want to be in places on social media that bear good fruit. It doesn't mean all the fruit has to be good, but I want to be in places where I'm going, this is making people's lives better. And I do not see that on Twitter, and I do see that on Instagram. So I'm like, I'm done with Twitter. It doesn't bear good fruit. And so I don't want to be places that don't bear good fruit. So that's easy for me because I'm an all or nothing girl. So nothing is fine.
And for me, that's TikTok, because like I love to dance. I love a good DIY, but I don't have time for it all. And I know where I can get sucked into. So for me, I know I have to be on social media. I can't be on all social media. I'm not a Pinterest girl. I'm not, so I agree. I think let's not be everywhere to everyone and then not really be good for anyone.
That's it. So that's exactly right. So that's what I'm processing too. Like that's my amateur learning is how do I figure out how to do the parts that I feel like bring life and that I'm gifted at and that bear good fruit, and how do I have boundaries around it too? Because even actual farmers don't tend their gardens or their fruit trees 24/7. And so I don't have to do that either with where I'm growing good fruit. And so how do we figure that out? That's what I'm figuring out. I mean, I live alone, so I'm doing some boundaries of like, I don't check my phone before a certain time. I don't check my phone after a certain time. So I have some of those boundaries, but I'm still figuring out what does it look like in the work day when I could be on a lot.
That's good. Hey, you alluded to your new book. Will you stick around? Can we talk a little bit more about Chase the Fun? Okay, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Annie F. Downs. You're joining us in the middle of an amazing conversation with a New York Times bestselling author, podcaster, friend, Annie F. Downs. Annie, you have a new book coming out called Chase the Fun. Now, I just alluded to your bestselling book.
Yes,
it's the same name as your podcast. That sounds fun. So now is it safe to say this is a companion devotional to that?
Totally. Here's my problem, Sami. You think I'd have learned this already, but I didn't. When I wrote Let's All Be Brave, after people read it, they said, how do I actually do this? And I thought, of course. So I wrote 100 Days to Brave. And so those books really go hand in hand. One is the why and one is the how. And then I accidentally did it again with That Sounds Fun, where I wrote the why book about like, why does fun matter? And what does it look like? And how is it a spiritual thing? How is it a really important part of a healthy life? And then everybody was like, okay, how? You know what? You're right. And I'm sorry.
And you said something in our first segment about being an amateur. And, there's something that we abandon in childhood, not even just abandon, but maybe shun or look down on as adults are like, no, you can't have fun. How are you bringing that back, and why is it okay?
And that's the thing, right? Is it, for starters, when you're a kid, we tell kids to try new things all the time, new vegetables. We're saying, eat this, at least give it a chance. Or we say, go try that new sport. Or go talk to that friend you've never met before. I just heard Reese Witherspoon do an interview where her very best friend was a girl who lived across the hall from her in their apartment. And her mom said, go knock on her door. She looks to be about your age, right? Like, we encourage people to do new things all the time. But when it's us and we're grownups, well, I don't know if that person will like what I think. So I don't know if I should introduce myself. Or what if I get hurt if I try this sport? Or I had Brussels sprouts before and I didn't like them. I don't want to try this new recipe.
Yeah. Or the perfectionist in us takes over.
Right. And as we've already talked about social media, it can be really scary to be an amateur in a conversation publicly. Right. And absolutely. We expect everyone to learn at the speed of the internet and grow at the speed of the internet instead of learning at the speed of learning. And so what the permission we get to give ourselves and each other, and we talk about this in Chase the Fun, is this idea of like, go after being an amateur and be okay if you're not great at something. Remember when you were a kid and people said, try things. It wasn't because we wanted people to fail. I don't say that to my friends' kids because I want them to hate what they're eating. It's because I want them to get on a path of a new experience. It's why we travel too, right? It's to see new places.
Yeah, and I was just talking to a friend yesterday. Their child's starting a new junior high, and she's like, where they were going wasn't bad. There just weren't enough offerings. I'm so afraid of her getting to college without having tried things. And I think that's, you don't have to stick with it for years, but just put yourself out there.
That's right. And what we've learned in the last couple of years is that people didn't realize that they were escaping from their lives. They thought they were going on vacation and doing all these things. And then 2020 shuts us all down. And suddenly mental health conversations are on the rise, and realizing like my life isn't exactly what I want is on the rise. And what I am hearing people say, because I get to talk about fun all the time, is like, okay, you mean there's something I can pursue that will actually help me not escape, but enjoy. And so that's what we're doing in Chase the Fun. Is like, okay, for 100 days, let's sit and talk about this with good quotes and great scripture, and really how this is a spiritual thing, how this is a health thing, how this is part of you becoming who you really want to be. And let's see if that will actually give you the life you've been longing for. What if it's just chasing fun that will give you the life you've been waiting for?
Annie, I can't wait to get this in my hands. I want everyone to check out not only that sounds fun, but now Annie's newest book, Chase the Fun, 100-day devotional. Annie, thank you so much for being with us. It's always fun with you, my friend.
I love you, friend. Thanks for having me on.
Love you. Bye.